This second session today for the plant customers, and this is about data management and change tracking. The focus is on P&ID data, although it's not limited to the P&ID data, but if we talk about data, it's mostly about the P&ID data, process data, mechanical data, and so on. Okay, so a few words about me. Although at least some of you already know me, my name is Carsten Beiniger. I'm the product manager for Plant Tools. I'm also responsible for consulting jobs in our process plant department. I have more than 33 years of experience in process plant. I also was a developer. Now I'm just a product manager. I used, well, at least versions before AutoCAD P&ID. So I used to draw P&ID drawings, especially P&ID drawings. And yeah, I still do consulting, especially in regards to plant tools and plant 3D. A few more join in. For those of you who join in a little bit later, this session is recorded, so don't worry. Okay, yeah, I also, of course, have experience, or my main experience is now AutoCAD P&ID Plant 3D since 2009, and also the databases SQLite, SQL Server, which are, of course, the main databases for Plant 3D. Okay. So some info about Auxalia. We are a platinum partner here in Germany. We have over 30 years of experience, more than 4,000 customers, and we are 70 employees, and we have 9 branches or offices. Those are the ones. One is in Austria, one in Switzerland, and the rest is in Germany. The latest one is in Stuttgart. I also want to point to our plant blog. It's available in German and English, but you are probably more interested in the English version. Just go to the Auxalia homepage and then switch to English, and then you will see in the menu plant blog, and yeah, you will find some information. In general, you can also go to our plant tools online documentation. Just start any plant tool and press F1, and all the information about plant tools is there. Okay, as mentioned in the beginning, the main focus is data management, and just checking who joined meanwhile. Okay, and so let's have a look first of the various workflows we have when talking about data management in Plant 3D, of course, not in general in a company. So we are talking about all things around Plant 3D. So of course, you create data with AutoCAD Plant 3D. You edit data, for example, with Plant Data Manager. Of course, you can also use the regular data manager. You may want to fill data from other data sources. That can be done with Plant Link or with Plant Spec Driven, which then uses the Plant 3D pipe specs to fill in data for the P&ID objects. You can calculate data with Plant Express tools, similar to an Excel calculation or an Excel calculation or formula in an Excel cell. You can, of course, print and export data with Plant Reporter. You can do this also, of course, with Report Creator. We just have some additional features in Plant Reporter which Report Creator does not. Also want to mention that the Report Creator is based on our Plant Reporter. Autodesk licensed our Plant Reporter in 2010. It was released with Plant 3D P&ID 2012. But we continued to improve Plant Reporter, and yeah, I will show one specific feature, which again relates to data management in general. Okay, and last, everything you do in regards to changing your data will be logged or can be logged. You have to activate that feature in Plant Express tools, the change log feature, which then tracks any change on your data you make. Okay, and oops, one more slide, then that's it. Yeah, these are the Plant tools I will now use during that presentation. Plant, not in that order exactly. I will use Plant Data Manager to edit the data outside of AutoCAD Plant 3D. We will use Plant Link to bring in more data from an external data source. In this case, I have a simple table for catalog data for equipment, but also, yeah, for some other purposes, but I use Plant Link for that. In this demo, I will not use Plant Spec Driven to assign or to map data from the pipe specs. That's a different presentation, but it's a similar concept. You bring in data from your Plant 3D pipe specs into your 3D into your P&ID objects. We will see an example how we can calculate data with Plant Express tools, and also some, as I mentioned, some or a specific feature creation and the creation of version and revisions for of reports or of lists and whatnot. Okay, that's about it. Okay, so I have here a project I prepared. I also used that in the morning for my German customers. I'm not a process person, so yeah, don't kill me if something looks off. Also, this is an ISO project for all our US customers. They are, well, the symbols are similar. Anyway, it's not important. So I have here one drawing, and I have a second one. They are connected with off-page connectors. That's about it. And I have a drawing I created in the morning for the German presentation. I will ignore that. I will start like I did in the morning by creating a new drawing, which we then will place some symbols in. So when you create a drawing, you can already, with Plant Express tools, you can create a version or revision of that drawing. You can type in some text, we will later see. You can change that as well, but in general, you can set a version and revision. And this becomes interesting later on when we look at the changes or the change log, because the changes you make on your data of your objects will be chronologically ordered between the versions and revisions of your drawing. So you always see, okay, between, let's say, version 0 and 1 of a drawing, all these changes for, let's say, a valve have been made for, let's say, the tag property or whatnot. Okay, so the drawing is created. Let's switch to model space. You see the version number also here. And now let's show some examples. So as I mentioned, when you now, in German, German AutoCAD or Plant 3D, the engineering items are at the bottom and the non-engineerings are at the top. So I have to switch my brain around, so to speak. So let's have a look at a tank, for example. There is still something, let me just refresh. It's probably from the morning. They should not be in German. Yeah, that's more like it. So now we have English descriptions, and yeah, let's use B for vessels. Again, not important. We allow additional properties in the assign tag dialog, so you can fill out the properties you defined right when you use assign tag, for example, if you want. But that's really not the key. I will also, sorry, there are some functions or features, especially of Plant Express tools, English, which also have an influence on data in general, but I will skip over them because I want to talk about data tracking in general. There are different ways to modify your data, let me put it that way. Okay, so I have that tank here, and maybe I draw an additional line from the tank. That should do it. It's the same as I did in the morning. Okay, so, and I save the drawing. You all already saw quickly that little progress panel, and the color of the tank changed. Yeah. So first of all, if the why is that open? I don't need that one, and I will minimize the project manager. We don't need that now. What we did with our own properties palette, we allow the creation of additional tabs. By default, you only have the P&ID tab, which shows you all the P&ID properties as you are used to. But you can create in the setup of Plant Express tools additional tabs. For each tab, you can define additional or multiple groups. And within a group, you can define which properties you want to see and in what order you want to see them. So for example, for an equipment, you have also can have a section of nozzles, and well, I only have one nozzle here. Otherwise, you can, like in 3D, you can toggle between or switch between the nozzles. And again, I only have one, but yeah, these are all the properties of nozzle N1, for example. So this is something, and there is an additional tab which shows you the history of a symbol, in this case meaning when it was created and when it was last modified, which is in this case the same date, because yeah, I just created that symbol and saved it right away. So the dates are the same, but the modified add date will change during the course of your changes. So first, let's have a look at the tank or the equipment. I have configured a link here in this project, which allows the mapping of property of fields from a database table to P&ID properties. And I use blend link with that. And there are various ways to do that. So you can use the context menu, and I use that for the presentation now. There are other ways. This is a simple table just for presentation purposes. I have just the model number, which is the linked field, and this is why it's, let's say, a little bit darker gray, and the rest will be mapped to certain properties. So I will just use that one, and now the equipment is green, and this is also a possibility to, in my case, if the equipment doesn't have a model number, if it's not filled out, then the color will change to red. As soon as the model number is filled out, then the color will change to whatever is set in project setup, in my case, green. So that's this. And now we have a look at the line. So what I will do is I will assign a tag. However, I will, well, yeah, let's select some size, but you will see that, and again, you can, let's say, type whatever, hot and 50 millimeters, and we have a certain special annotation. The annotation here is also calculated. It's adding, if the line is insulated, I will add the insulation type and insulation thickness to the annotation, so to speak. So this is if I would remove the insulation thickness and type, then that would also be updated. It's calculated, the value we see here. Also, the size in this example, I use that regularly in my demos. The size is also calculated. I fill it out manually, but if I would save the drawing, you would see that the size would disappear, because the size, as you will see in a moment, if I fill out the flow speed and flow rate, you will see that all these properties will be filled out or calculated, and also it uses Plant Link to find the next larger inside or pipe with an inside diameter which is larger than the minimum calculated diameter needed for that flow speed and flow rate. I use for the calculated size, I use a simple formula. The setup of that example can be also seen in our online documentation. I have specifically this as a use case in the documentation. So, okay, we have this. Now you see the size here is calculated 65, and it's also, of course, showing up here in the annotation. If I save the drawing, there are two things. Well, it also will, because I selected now the service, it also will change the color. This is also, well, it is not directly related to data in general, but in this case, the AutoCAD, the AutoCAD color of that line, of the flow arrow, and so on. But that's, let's say, a side effect. Now we select the line and we have a look at the properties palette. What we see now is all these green icons, let's say. They show that there is a history for that, for the properties. So if we look here, well, currently, and again, we see V1, the version of the drawing, and then the first value, because that's the first value we saved. If you just edit data and you don't save the drawing, then it's not worth saving them. So this is why you don't see the 100 I typed in before. But this is the first value. Before that, it was simply empty. So you see this, and we can make, let's say, also here, of course, we can have a look here, and I can modify the model number here as well. And now you see all these also have changed. It's not showing here because this orange icon means that those changes are not saved yet. It's just an indicator for the user that, hey, there are still things you may want. So you may want to save the drawing to permanently lock that. If, let's say, AutoCAD would crash now, or I decide not to save the drawing, then those changes I just made would not be stored. So now they are stored, and if we look at the history again, now we see P1, P2, and if we look, oops, why do I always break? Of course, now the nozzle also has a size, but yeah, we look here and we see the various changes because different values have been mapped to that tank. And if I would make modifications here to the line, let's say, what is it? Let's say 20, not quite sure, could be 125. Nope, 100. Okay, so I save again. You don't need to save every time you make a change. It's just for the presentation purposes. So now if we look for the size, you see, okay, 65, 100. Okay, and what we can also do now is create a new version and revision of that drawing. To do that, you need to close the drawing. It's apparently, okay. It wasn't done, and okay, create version, revision. A new version or a new revision, it's up to you. There's also the possibility to manually type in the version or revision number for those customers where you can define whether it should be numerical or alphabetical for each of the ones of the versions and revisions. But sometimes customers have a version and revision, let's say, counting where it just doesn't fit, and then you can set it to manual, and then you type in whatever you want. You need to type in a text, next version or whatever. It will create a backup of the version in a backup folder, so you always have the old versions as well. Okay, I think that's it. And now, of course, yeah, it will open and close the drawing. And if we don't need that one anymore, that's from the German presentation, but you see it's the same. You can see here in the prop, actually, let's make that wider. We have a tab here for the version and revision. So this is a chronological order of all the versions and revisions of that drawing. So you can, and here you see the text I typed in, you can still modify that text if needed. But if we open that drawing and have a look at the data of our, let's say, tank, then you now see that P1 and P2 have been changed between version 0 and version 1. So this is what I wanted to show. So it's the changes are in order, in chronological order, including the versions and revisions. Okay, so that should do it. Let's switch over. Now I made some changes. Okay. I will come back to the other two drawings. So what I will do now is I will start Plant Reporter. Actually, I should be able, so I don't need to. Okay. So I said we can create versions and revisions of reports as well. So what I will do is I will use my project, and I have a simple in equipment list, and I will create a report. And I activated the version and revision feature. So in the morning, I made a presentation where I used the version 0 and 1, and now of course the next one will be 2. So I will create a new version. I can create also a new revision. It's similar to what you saw for the drawings, and yeah, for the drawings. And so let's create that, because now you will see in a moment that we will use the same form also in Plant Data Manager. Nothing special here. You see version 2 and you see the data. Okay, so we will come back to that. Nothing special, it's just a report. So now let's start Plant Data Manager. So as mentioned in the PowerPoint, Plant Data Manager allows you to modify the data outside of AutoCAD Plant 3D. You also do not need AutoCAD Plant 3D install, you do not need to have AutoCAD Plant 3D installed on your machine. You just need Plant Data Manager, and you need to, of course, have access to your project folders like you would have with Plant 3D. So I open the project, and you have by default, or the default view when you open the project, you have your class structure like you have in Plant 3D. What you also see here are all these nice screens icons also. So all these information about change history is available here as well. So if I go to, let's go to the pump, to the equipment, because the last two are probably the ones I inserted in the drawing. So if we look here, and we see 2 and 3, and maybe this one is, yeah, you see the same as you saw in CAD. You also have the same properties palette here as you had in Plant Express tool. So for those users who, let's say, switch between AutoCAD or Plant 3D and Plant Data Manager, and a lot of customers do that, they have the same, let's say, look and feel. Okay, so now we want to make some modifications, and I will just use a different view. You can, so by default you have an overview of the whole project or project data view. You can also switch to drawing data. Here you can select one or more drawings. I will stay with the two main drawings I started the project with. That's not grammatically correct, but anyway. So I will make a change, let's say, to that pump. I will change the model number, which and then of course triggers all the rest. You can also make a right click here and say assign data. It's the same as in AutoCAD, but I want to, let's say, yeah, also use 4. So yeah, you can make the changes here. If you have other views as well, for example, if you define, or you by default you have project reports in Plant 3D, so you can, for example, use the equipment list, and you have the same look and feel, or not look and feel, the same columns as you have in the in data manager of AutoCAD Plant 3D. You can of course make changes. Let's see, that was supposed to be 100. Now of course the tag changed here. We see that here. You can of course modify it here as well. So you have these project reports available. You can also use or export and import to Excel and back, or back X and import, yeah. Project, if you defined what is data manager views, I think it's in project setup. So in project setup, you can define views for the data manager of Plant 3D, and you can use them also in Plant data manager. I have a simple one, and I only have 2 instruments, so bad example, but here I have a view which groups them by type and then by loop number. But yeah, as I said, I have only 2. You can configure, or you can edit your data in any view. You can move columns back and forth. You can group. I can show that in a moment. And very important is, or very well liked from our customers, is the possibility to use the reports of Plant Reporter for editing. So here you see the same report we saw before in Plant Reporter, and you simply can, let's copy that. Let's fill that out here. Okay, and maybe I change here this to, okay, I need to double click to P2. So you can use the same, yeah, look and feel in this case as you have in the report. So users who are, let's say, well, you have simply more possibilities. Even if you don't use that for printing, you can have a nice layout for data entry. Or management in general. You can also use, this is a very simple data pump data sheet I created once, very simple looking, but you get the idea. You have, so for each pump, you have a data sheet, and you can make modifications here as well. 100. Yeah, it's now it reordered, so now 100 is after 002. Okay, so you can modify in all sorts of views, and of course if you toggle back and forth between the views, the changes you make do exist in the various, here you see the changes are made to the tag. If I make it a little bit wider, yeah, and if you change the columns, that's all gonna work. You can also, you can filter, you can group, for example, yeah, let's group by line, by model number. So now you can see that a model number, where is it? Model number P2 is used for these 3. Model number P3 is used for that one, and P4 is used for those 2. So, and you can stack them multiple times. You can undo that as well. Of course. So if you are done, I'm a little bit slow now. If you are done, you save the changes and you define them as ready for import. If you don't do that, maybe you want to continue editing on the next day and you don't want to have the CAD person import your changes because you are not done. So, but at the end, you will define them as ready for import. And then, okay, go back. I will close the project to showcase what's happening if the CAD user opens the project. I don't want to start Plant 3D to save some time. So what I will do is I will actually close the project and reopen it. And then you will see the notification the user gets, data management. So he gets that dialog which tells him, okay, there are changes he can import or she can import. And I click on Review Changes. Now the Plant Data Manager plugin opens, and it's so big that there's hardly any space. So I will shrink that a bit. You see which users made changes. So you can also, multiple users can make changes. But in this case, it was just me. It also allows you to uncheck certain users. Maybe you want to import changes of one user at a time, for example. And then you see all the classes which are affected by these changes and which drawings are affected. You see the two drawings I have here. You see the changes here, depending on where you are, of course, so equipment. You see the same as you saw in Plant Data Manager. Eventually, you will click on Accept all changes. You can also, of course, accept one change at a time. And it's opening the drawings, and in my case, it will save the drawing always. It will, after the changes for each drawing have been accepted, the drawings will be saved. But in my case, the drawings stay open. But you can also have the drawings automatically be closed. But of course, since I want to show that, we see the changes I made. And where did I change the pump? I think here, that's now 100. So if we look again at, why is that one open here? If we look at the properties, we will see now, of course, the history here of the changes. From 001 to 100. Okay, last, we will go back to Plant Reporter and create another report. Again, a new version. It's now number 3. Or let's create a revision. Number A, create. Again, nothing special. We just see revision A, text, okay. But now what we can do is we can compare. For example, I used the one that is more fun than in the German presentation. I used the first version, and now the last revision I created. There are some options I will skip over. So now, okay, we see a comparison between version 0 and revision A, and everything in yellow, you see the old and the new value. Green means that this tank is a new tank, a new symbol. So this is why it's green. If there would be symbols which have been deleted between version 0 and revision A, then they would appear in red because, yeah, they have been deleted. The colors, of course, can be changed. You can also get a report which shows only the edit or only the deleted or only the changed values or symbols. That's all possible. Okay, let me just look at my script, but I think that's about it. So yeah, this is all about Data Manager I wanted to show today. Again, there are several functions, especially in Plant Express tools, which also have an influence on data, but I wanted to show in general the various, let's say, workflows you have with your data together with Plant 3D. Okay, I think I have one more slide. Yeah, so that was for today. So these are only the English sessions. And tomorrow, with my friend Craig Wood and Dave Simmons from the US, I have an interview the same time tomorrow. Craig is actually with us right now. But yeah, so that is tomorrow. And on Friday, I will have a session talking about product development as a service for plant tools. Okay, then I wish you a nice day or rest of your day. And I hope I see you soon. Okay, bye.